Well, I do hope the electorate is smart enough to see through these fake teal independents, because each and every day of this campaign we are treated to some classic amateur politics. We know why they've targeted seats held by moderate Liberals. One, Simon Holmes à Court wants the Morrison government to fall, which will pave the way for renewable investors around Australia to make a windfall on their solar and wind projects. Plus, that kind of politics will find many more friends in electorates which have already voted in moderate Liberal candidates anyway. They won't tell you, of course, who they'll support in the event of a hung parliament, because they want Liberal voters on their side, and they couldn't possibly tell the truth about their support for the ALP. But they do try and pull the wool over voters' eyes, like today. Climate 200 candidate for Wentworth in Sydney, Allegra Spender, was on the ABC and suggested she may even support the Morrison government in the event of a hung parliament.
So you might back him in to continue as Prime Minister?
Yeah, if that depends, as I said. I'm open to that, and I'm open to negotiating with everyone.
And at midnight on election night, a flock of pigs will fly over Darling Point in Wentworth and land like ducks on Sydney Harbour, as if. Joining me now is the sitting Liberal MP for Wentworth, Dave Sharma. Dave, before we get to Allegra Spender, how confident are you can retain Wentworth? Because I noticed that Malcolm Turnbull, a card-carrying member of the Liberal Party, is doing all he can to get the fake independents home.
Good evening, Chris. Great to join you. Look, I never take my electorate for granted. I won it narrowly last time around, but I believe I've worked very hard over the last 3 years to show the people of Wentworth the sort of representative I am, a member of the Liberal Party, but one with strong and independent views on issues like national security and keeping the economy strong, and one who's interested in our local community and has delivered improvements to our local community. So I don't rest on my laurels any single day, but I hope I've done enough to renew their faith and trust in me this coming election.
But it doesn't help when a former mate of yours, a former Liberal PM, a Liberal member pushing for Australians to vote for these elite greenies, the teal independents, does it?
Well, look, he's a private citizen these days and he's entitled to his views. And I just say to the people of Wentworth, these days it's my name on the ballot paper as a Liberal candidate, and I'm the one who's asking for their support, and I'm the one who's saying, vote one Dave Sharma in the seat of Wentworth, and that's who you're going to get. You're going to get me, not anyone else.
Allegra Spender has come out today saying she's open to backing the Prime Minister. Is she telling the truth here? Because surely if that were true, the teal independents wouldn't be targeting Liberal-held seats.
Look, the whole thing, Chris, I just find a gross and quite a disrespectful act of deception on the electorate. Refusing to say which party they would support, refusing to even say which preference they have for the major party policies. But I can tell you one thing, the only way you're getting a Liberal government returned is if you return a Liberal member in Wentworth. It doesn't happen any other way. It's not going to happen any other way. If you want a Liberal government, then I'd suggest vote for the Liberal candidate, not a candidate who's pretending to be all things to all people and refusing to reveal her hand about which party and which policy she's going to support. Surely the electorate deserves that basic courtesy to let them know which party and which Prime Minister they will support in the event of a hung parliament.
I couldn't agree more. Voters need to know exactly which side that they will support in the event of a hung parliament. Otherwise, how can you vote for them? Now, I don't get this. The government finally commits to net zero by 2050, thanks in part to you. And we still have the climate zealots wanting more. What is that about?
Look, I think a lot of these people, they're interested in defeating the coalition government. They don't recognise or acknowledge the dramatic amount of progress we've made on this issue over the last 3 years, including, with all due modesty, because of people like me who pushed us to adopt a net zero by 2050 target, convinced our colleagues in the party room that this is not only in Australia's economic interest, but it's also in our security interests and our environmental interests. And that refused to accept that, it can be a Liberal government, just as the Liberal government delivered all sorts of things like marriage equality. It will be a Liberal government that delivers a responsible transition to a net zero future. I think that sends these people crazy, and they just can't come to terms with it.
I think you might be right. It sends them nuts. The actual electorate geography and your electorate's demography has changed over the years. More progressives in that inner eastern side of the CBD of Sydney, a progressive gay population as well. Does that make it harder for you this time round?
Look, I'd say that certainly the electorate is socially progressive, and the fact that this electorate voted in a very high proportion for same-sex marriage or marriage equality a few years ago shows you that. But this is also an electorate that is very engaged in the economy. There's about 34,000 small business owners. There's a huge number of people whose health and livelihoods depends upon the overall health of the economy. And so they're also, as you'd expect, very rightly focused on some of the economic risks to Australia, the global economic outlook, and which major party can deliver stable government and strong public finances. And it's only a major party that can do that. And I think this is one of the real risks of the independents, that if they all get in, you're going to have paralysis in the parliament, you're going to have quagmire, the government will not be able to act quickly to deal with any number of issues. And that is a huge dark cloud over Australia's economic and our strategic future too, to be honest. It's a huge amount of uncertainty that we would be injecting into our political system at exactly the time we need to have a very strong, stable and secure government.
Now, what day will you be inviting the Prime Minister to stroll next to you in Bay Street, Double Bay?
He has an open invitation to visit any day of the week, Chris, and he's got a mother who lives in the electorate. He came to open my electorate office just a few months ago, and we did an event at a local school then. And so whenever he'd like to, it's a standing invitation. He would always be welcome. But I'm also conscious, look, he's got 151 electorates to go around the country, and he's rightly focusing on where we think we can make some gains to make sure that we retain government. So those are campaign decisions, and I respect whatever decision he reaches there.
Just on Anthony Albanese, one quick one. I've noticed in the past 4 weeks, he is not the sharpest tool in the shed. He gets very angry, as he did on Friday, if journalists gang up on him and share the scrutiny of a single question. Let's hypothesise for a second that he becomes PM. Do you think some in the party might want to challenge him before the 2025 election?
Well, I think what the performance of the campaign really has shown, Chris, is that he's not up to the task of being Prime Minister. I mean, he's not across his brief, he's not across the detail, he's brittle when challenged, he has to defer to his colleagues as, sort of heat shields to guard him from questioning from journalists. If you haven't done the homework, if you haven't done the basic preparation, if you don't know what you're asking Australians to vote for, how can you possibly put yourself forward as leader? And I think the disquiet we've seen amongst senior Labor ranks as revealed in the media over the past few weeks, shows you that his own colleagues have doubts about his ability to lead this country.
It's been rather embarrassing. At least the first 4 weeks have been. Thank you so much for your time. I understand you've got your own in-electorate debate tonight. Good luck with all those debates and good luck for the rest of the campaign.
Thanks so much, Chris. Good to join you.